everybody. I'm Linda Larson, and welcome to the second show for our SBI Summer Series. Today we're going to be talking about all virtual fellowship interview season, what worked and what didn't. And I asked Matt Miller earlier today if he planned on having this on match day, and he said no, he didn't, but it's an awesome coincidence. So we're all very happy to be here to discuss this with you, and I think we'll start by introducing ourselves. Again, I'm Linda Larson from the University of Southern California, breast imager there for over 20 years, and again, very happy to be here. Sandy?
Sure. Hi, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. My name is Sandy Lee. I'm also a breast imager at USC, University of Southern California. I've been here about 8 years as an attending and as the breast imaging fellowship director for about 1.5 years.
Robin?
Hi, I'm Robin Sobolewski, and I'm a breast imager at Allegheny Health for Pennsylvania, and I'm the director of the breast imaging fellowship there. Very happy to be here today.
Great. Janine?
Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Janine Katzen. I am a breast imager at Weill Cornell Imaging. I joined the faculty here. It'll be 10 years in August. And I am the director of our breast imaging fellowship and the chair of the fellowship match committee here at the SBI.
Great. Jean?
Hi, my name is Denise Benjamin. I'm a breast imager at Emory, and I'm also the assistant program fellowship director here at Emory. I've been with Emory for the last 10 years, and happy to be joining all of you as well.
Margaret?
Hi, I'm Margaret Iacobuzzi. I'm a breast imager at Wake Forest. I've been here for about 6 years, and I'm the fellowship director of breast imaging.
Vicki?
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm a breast imager at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, where I trained about 10 years ago, and I co-direct our breast imaging fellowship.
And Craig?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Craig Wilson. I'm an R3 at UCLA and just went through the fellowship application process and very grateful to be here. Thank you for including me.
And Hala?
Hi, everyone. I'm Hala. I'm also an R3, just matched today, so very excited to be here, and thank you so much for having me.
Congratulations, both of you. Good. So I think we're going to start by, I assume everyone did the in-person interview process before this year. And I just want to see how you begin creating a virtual interview season. And what resources do you use? Anyone?
I can answer. We actually relied on our residency to begin with because they started the process a little bit earlier, and we are fortunate to have an incredible share coordinator with the residency for our breast imaging fellowship match as well. So we relied on a lot of the resources she used. And then we started thinking about what were we going to be missing using this virtual process, and how can we bring that into the process this year as opposed to last year, and trying to figure out how to do a virtual tour and how to schedule the interview day.
Good.
Agree. We did the same thing as well. We used, since the residency program interview season were ahead of us, we did, use the resources, and that worked well for us for the virtual interview process.
I think for us also at USC, since it's a pretty large institution, our School of Medicine and the dean actually reached out to us very early on in maybe April or May of 2020, just to see what every fellowship program, what they needed for the upcoming virtual interviews.
Yeah, we don't have a residency program, so we worked a lot with our GME office and our media relations team. I think one of the challenges was every single program was reaching out to them around the same time to get some sort of video or tour put together, so that was a little bit limited, but they were great on helping us.
Good. And what did you guys think about a whole virtual interview season? How did you go about, picking? Did you apply to more places, or did you apply to the same amount as far as residents?
So I actually had no idea how it was going to go. I took a lot of ideas from like influencers on Instagram because they had like a great setup, and I felt that they were really good at, just at the whole like virtual everything. So took a lot of ideas from them. Definitely applied very, very broadly because I had no idea how many people programs were interviewing. We heard rumors that a lot of programs are going to be filling internally. So we thought this was just like a rumor that was going around, I think, within residents. So I think a lot of us ended up applying to a lot more than we normally would have, and also interviewing at a lot more because you could go to it. It was easy. And you applied to a lot more, so you just got a lot more invites just as a numbers game.
Mm-hmm. Craig, did you have the same experience?
Yeah, I think definitely it made it appealing to applicants, in terms of being able to apply more broadly, and as a med student at the end of I guess it's end of in MS4, all that travel is so expensive, and and not having to face that, and also minimizing impact on rotations. I think that's definitely positive. At the same time, it's also difficult, for a place one's never been. Maybe it has to be scary for you, like looking at hiring someone you've not actually met. And this is great, but it's not the same, right? And so I think that's one of the challenges with it. But I don't know. I think for my classmates, I think we were, grateful to be able to meet a lot of people in a lot of different programs, and learn a lot about places across the country without traveling there. Although traveling there, I would say, is better if one can.
Now, did you notice a lot more applicants on your end? And how did you end up getting them before you interviewed them?
I think for our program, it was kind of go on.
No, we had like about five-fold increase in the applicant pool, and it was great to see people from all over the country because there weren't the limitations of travel. So it was really interesting to meet people. We're a little bit of a small program, more regional. We get a lot more applicants in general from the greater Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania, Ohio area. So we need to see some other applicants in the pool here and to meet them. And we were still, because it's virtual, we were still able to interview pretty much everybody that wanted to interview. So
yeah,
because the days were kind of more concise, they didn't have the added tours and that kind of thing. So we're able to interview more people as well.
Yeah, we noticed a lot more applicants as well. I'd say about 50% more applicants. And the positive out of that is you get to introduce your program to more people, which is great. Unfortunately, you don't get to meet those people in person, but you get to introduce your program. And we made a PowerPoint to introduce our program. So kind of the tour that we couldn't provide, we provided that way. So that was a very positive thing. It was a little tricky to schedule because there were so many more applicants, but I think overall it was positive.
good.
It's interesting. We actually only got 2 more applicants this year compared to the previous application cycle. And I don't know how to describe that. I don't know if Vicki, we're geographically in similar locations. I don't know if you guys had a similar experience or not, but there really wasn't that much of a difference for us this year.
Yeah, agreed. Our numbers were pretty much exactly the same in terms of people who applied. Although when you talk about applying more broadly, from a fellowship director standpoint, I found it a little bit harder to know who was truly interested in our fellowship in some ways, because I think every other year we invite some people to interview and some of them decline because they think, well, do I really want to be in New York? Do I really want to make that trip? This time, every single person accepted the interview offer, which is great, but it's also a little bit harder to know, it was so easy just to dial in, how serious they were about coming to New York.
I think we had the exact same experience here where the number of applicants was about the same as before, but what we noticed was instead of more of the local applicants, we got more from the East Coast, the South, but like you said, it was harder to tell which applicants were generally interested in coming to our program.
Yeah. Very tough to gauge. Very tough to gauge. Now, what was the format for your interview day? Or your virtual interview?
I can go. We at Emory, usually we do even in-person interview on Saturdays. So what we did was we picked 2 Saturdays and we used Zoom with breakout rooms for each of the candidates. And we had all of the attendings rotating through those breakout rooms. So we were able to interview more people, but overall, the number of applicants were pretty similar as the prior years.
In terms of our format, what we did was we started out with a video that introduced our program, but also because since the applicants weren't able to visit our facilities, and normally we show them a tour and take them around to all 3 different hospitals, part of the GME office and the dean's office, what they did was they did provide the media and then the crew to come and record our different facilities, and also they interviewed our fellow that just finished her fellowship. And so we showed that video right in the beginning, so hopefully they could get a sense of our campus and our culture. But then after that, we did a Zoom interview, 20 minutes each, where they met about maybe 4 of our faculty members. Then we ended the day after, so it's about 2.5 hours to 3 hours. We ended the day where they just had dedicated time on Zoom with our fellows where no attendings were on and they could just talk to the fellows.
Mm-hmm.
So we did many of the same components, but in a little bit of a different order. We did also a tour that was arranged by the institution, but we sent that to the applicants ahead of time so that they could look at it in their own time. The morning of the interview, we did PowerPoint presentations giving an overview of the program, and then we did about 15-minute virtual interviews spread throughout the day. So when the applicants were interviewing, they were logged in, but if they weren't actively interviewing, they could log out and log back at the time of their actual interview.
That's really good.
I did wonder for applicants, because we set up a separate breakout room for applicants to speak freely with our current fellows, but I did wonder how you as applicants felt about that, because I think I would feel monitored even though we weren't monitoring the Zoom, because you're still in this sort of not quite a private format.
Yeah, I can comment on that. First of all, I want to say that the whole virtual interview process was honestly so smooth. I enjoyed every single one of mine. I didn't have any technical difficulties, but maybe I was one of the lucky ones. But everybody was really understanding, even if you did have, technical difficulties. So the whole process was really nice, short, sweet, and to the point. In terms of getting to actually know the program and asking questions like what you had mentioned, it was a little difficult because, yeah, you did feel a little bit monitored, but for the most part, I felt like I can ask anything, and you kind of fed off of what the fellows gave you. So if you felt like that they were honest, you felt like you could kind of ask more openly. And if you felt like they were kind of hiding things, then it felt a little bit more monitored, and then you kind of didn't ask as many things as you might have wanted. So I think for the most part, we just kind of fed off of what the fellows that were there gave us.
Yeah, I think meeting the fellows was great. It's I don't know, maybe meeting a fellow from across a beer maybe would be better, but I think I didn't feel that we were monitored or whatever. I felt that every time I was in a group like that, I felt my co-applicants were comfortable asking whatever they, and myself, whatever we wanted to ask of the fellows. It was also fun. Sometimes there were breakout rooms where the applicants were waiting in between interviews, which actually was really nice to be able to chat a little bit with applicants from across the country and again, I didn't feel like we were being monitored or anything. I think that was actually really nice to have at least a little chance to meet some of our co-applicants.
Was there a maximum number of attendings faculty that you wanted to meet with? Did it ever get like too many interviews or?
I had one where it was like too many, but for the most part, I would say we met with like maybe 3 to 4, and I thought that was like perfect. I would worry if it's more than 4, it gets kind of repetitive because you're not talking to each other and coordinating questions. So that was my only worry, is like after 4, I felt like, oh boy, like I'm going to say the same silly story again here. But I would say like 3 to 4 was perfect, because especially if they were, around 20 minutes, because I felt like that was just enough time to where if it was awkward, it wasn't too long, but if you really got along, some questions and get to know the program.
Good. I like that PowerPoint idea. I think that would give information really quickly and well. Did you, would you put topics like salary and call or in that PowerPoint?
We did. And we are combined body and breast fellowship. So there is body call. So my co-fellowship director on the body side explained the call, and we did discuss salary, and we discussed expectations and what the conferences are for each of the components of the fellowship. And we kind of just covered all of the details of the fellowship.
Just up front. Just go.
So that then they could also ask questions during the actual interview if they arose based on what we had shown during the PowerPoint.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we did as well with a PowerPoint, just explaining the entire fellowship. The only difference is we didn't give it during the interview. We gave it prior to the interview.
Yeah, same here too. We made a video and gave it prior to the interview. So when they came for the interview, if they had any questions, it was easier for them to ask.
Okay.
I think that's a really good idea, because we showed it in the beginning of the interview day, and to show a video on Zoom, sometimes it ran a little bit slower and had a few minor glitches, but that's a very good suggestion.
Yeah. Yeah, the Zoom first was stressful with the breakout rooms and we always worried that it wasn't going as smoothly as we'd like, but did you have that experience, or was Zoom easy for you guys?
For us, it seemed to work pretty seamlessly. Again, our program coordinator was amazing, and she had already been through the residency interview, so she kind of ran the whole thing for us. There was only one applicant who had a little bit of a technical issue.
Mm-hmm. Good. I think mainly our problem was the video in the beginning. Yeah. Our video was, the dean and talking about the whole school for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then we got to the breast imaging part, but they wanted us to show the whole thing. So that was a little tricky because, we didn't really want to sit through 10 minutes of it, we didn't have a choice.
I will say that from an applicant view, I really liked the programs that had PowerPoints or some kind of introduction in the beginning. It was just kind of a nice reminder in case you maybe saw the video a while ago, or it just kind of reminded you of the questions you had. I really liked it. I thought it was kind of a nice way to enter the interview day rather than just kind of be thrown into an interview. It was nice to get an introduction from the PD or whoever it was. It was just a nice little intro. I guess, yeah, the video might have some lags, but a PowerPoint or even just a short video was really nice.
Yeah, actually, I think, the videos for me were if it was videos during the interview, that was good for me as well. I think, it's quite a range of times that these interviews took. I think typically it was around about 4 attendings that we got to speak to, which was nice. But, some were, less than 30 minutes, some were more than 5 hours. And for me, having a bit of time, even, watching the video, questions come up, you see things we want to ask about. And I think, having that during the interview time is actually good. And something that's really nice, one place we actually had, some places there were, videos of a tour showing the facility, which was great. But once one of the fellows actually did sort of a live tour. He was talking to us on his I guess on his phone, and then he said, "Okay, here we go. Let's walk through the area." And that was pretty fun as well, to get sort of more of a feel for places we've not been before. So I think there are lots of ways to do it, but personally I enjoyed having sort of some variety mixed in between just the straight interview part, just a little bit more, as you say, PowerPoints or these videos, just to give me a little bit of time to sort of absorb what's going on and think what questions I really do have that I want to discuss.
Yeah, I agree. It was so nice to have some kind of narrative to go along with videos or PowerPoints. Sometimes we did get them sent before, but when they were repeated with little commentary, it was kind of a nice addition and another perspective that we maybe didn't get by just viewing it on our own. And I know exactly what program you're talking about, because I thought that was really fun, to just have a narrative to the tour rather than just watching a video. And I wasn't from that area, so it was kind of nice to hear that.
Yeah. What do you think was the best way to convey the environment through Zoom or through this virtual interview?
For us, that was our really big question. We feel that the culture of our program is really something that we wanted to portray, and how do you do that virtually, right? The camaraderie is something that we're really proud of, and it's challenging. So we actually did a Meet the Faculty recorded Zoom interview, which we sent out to our applicants. And it was just probably 8 to 10 of our breast imaging faculty talking about what we like about working where we are, and sent that out to the applicants to view on their own time. And then we also did an evening session with current and former fellows, where no faculty member was present, so that the applicants could meet with them separate from the interview day, knowing that we were not present, and hopefully they were able to have a frank conversation. I'm actually not sure, but those were 2 things that we tried, because those are things that I think there are a lot of positives to the virtual interviews, but I think that those are a couple of things that can be really challenging to convey.
Yeah. Anyone else?
We had a similar process to what a lot of people have said in terms of the PowerPoint that talked about our program, the nuts and bolts, they call, and compensation, but also highlighted things about Pittsburgh, about our city, because a lot of our applicants, like I said, weren't necessarily from the area or had been to the area before. So we talked a lot about, just life in general in Pittsburgh. And I had done my fellowship there, so I was from a different So it was nice to kind of, just share what a great city it is to live in for, even for a year if you're just doing for fellowship. And then for our interviews, we had similar process also. We had about four attendees interviewing, where we did like 20-minute interviews, and had plenty of time for questions and things like that. I love the ideas though of that live touring. That's something that maybe we'll do in the future if we have some virtual interviews again.
Yeah.
But similar to what everybody else has said, and it's worked really well for us too. I mentioned that the residency coordinator kind of helped, and it was the same thing when our coordinator was, that kind of having people, wait in one room and making sure everybody was kind of on time with meeting with different people. So that worked really smoothly for us.
Good. Do the applicants appear more casual on Zoom, or was it still a more formal interview style?
I think for us, everyone seemed formal.
Respectfully formal,
Yeah, all of them were formal for us, just as if it was an in-person interview.
Yeah.
They were formal, and I think everyone had on kind of the normal interview attire, and so I think everyone tried to keep with the same rules, even though it was virtual.
Yeah.
I did make a few jokes about people that I had. Yeah, well, that's what I was saying to them. You could be in your yoga pants for all I know, and their slippers that were under the desk. So, but everyone was very professional, and had ties on top.
Yeah.
I think everyone was formal, but almost a little bit more relaxed because you don't have the exhaustion of traveling and being in an unknown place. You can be in your own setting where you're comfortable. And I think that removed, at least, I'd love to hear the applicants' perspectives, but at least a small portion of that anxiety that goes along with the interview day. So I think in some ways it enabled us to get to know the applicants even a little bit better than we would in that face-to-face meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wore like a bright pink suit that I definitely would not have worn in real life. But I thought because it's virtual, it would be a little bit more fun. It was still formal. It's just maybe not a color that I would have picked in like face-to-face interviews. But I did see like a few other applicants wearing unusual colors, so it made it a little better. But that was really the only thing. Other than that, everybody wore suits and were pretty formal.
Yeah.
I was like,
we were able to,
all the virtual background that a lot of the applicants had. I was like, that is amazing. And it didn't look any choppy. When I try to do it, I feel like it's like choppy, but they had it like perfect.
Yeah. Now you mentioned that the Instagram really helped direct you for. So is social media really the leading force now as far as what programs you look at and what do you rely on?
I would say definitely this year I relied a lot more on words of mouth and talking to my friends, because just like it was hard to portray what we are as applicants for 30 minutes, it was so hard for the programs to portray that. And so much of it was subjective. Like if everything went smoothly, you had a great day. If you had technical issues, it kind of left a better taste in your mouth. And if you had a great organizer or somebody who was really techie, it just could take a program that wasn't on top of your list to the top. It just, all of that was so dependent. So I did spend a long time kind of worrying about the aesthetics and the technical stuff, just because I felt I want that to be the last reason why someone wouldn't pick me, because my internet connection wasn't good, or my background was distracting or anything like that, because I felt like it was kind of you almost don't want to say that you judge on it, but it went both ways. I mean, it was hard not to. That's all you got is like the 30 minutes together. So if a program was disorganized, I couldn't help but, get a bad idea. That was the only thing. So I guess in terms of social media and other residents and fellows, they played a huge role. Because we're able to reach out to former fellows on social media, on Twitter, and ask like kind of outside that interview. And that helped make my decision much easier, because again, it was very, very hard to pick between programs just based off of these 2-hour interviews.
Are you influenced by programs who use a lot of social media, like are on Twitter or Facebook or?
I wouldn't say that. It just kind of helped if I was interested in a program to reach out to that person and kind of talk to them on a more personal note. But no, I don't really like follow a particular program. It was more like the people that I followed.
Yeah. Good. So what definitely worked on Zoom better than in person?
We found ourselves staying. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Vicki. Go ahead.
We found ourselves staying on schedule a lot better. I tend to want to talk to people, but all of us, which was for better, for worse, the countdown would come and our conversation would have a very defined endpoint to it. But it did feel like in some ways, it was more efficient. We had a wonderful coordinator who was really on top of things and kept the day moving very smoothly.
Yeah.
I was going to say that, historically, looking back at the match and the applicants' perspectives, some of the concerns have been travel costs, weather-related delays, time away from rotations, time close to board studying, and all of this was avoided with this virtual format. So I think that those are definitely huge advantages. I think it was less expensive for most programs, I would assume. So I think that that's another benefit as well. But really looking at the applicants, I think a lot of the concerns that they'd had in previous years were really alleviated with this new format.
Mm-hmm. And what was the big negative other than, which is a big negative, they didn't really get the feel of the program and the city, and that I think was the biggest negative for Zoom, at least for us.
I would say that was a negative for us as well. Usually on the tour, the applicants will even get to meet the technologists and kind of get an idea of how we all work together. And unfortunately, that couldn't happen. We take them out to lunch, and that couldn't happen. So some of that less formal time that is more naturally socially to get to happen for us to know them and them to know us. But that was the bad side, but there were many upsides, like the travel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. Before, when the applicants came on campus, there was in between time where they got to talk to, besides the fellows, maybe even the residents, our coordinator, our techs, and that was lost. But like everyone said, the Zoom was also a great option for the applicants, for those who couldn't travel from far. So.
And it was also a little hard for us to gauge the applicants' interest. Like we had really no idea who wanted to come here, who didn't. We kind of thought everybody wanted, we didn't know. They're sort of doing a sales job as they're interviewing you. So, they were very successful. So we didn't really have a good idea of who wanted to come and who didn't. And how did you as residents convey to a program that you were really interested or not as interested?
Well, first of all, I want to say that the Zoom worked out really well for us third years, and for a few different reasons. I think Dr. Patel mentioned in one of the comments that in terms of equity, hands down, it was amazing to not have to worry about the money, especially for us living in Chicago. Our cost of living is so much, and to have to think about the cost of travel on top of that was a little much. So Zoom just made it so much more fair. And also at the third year studying for boards, trying to finish call, that was just amazing to not have to like take 2 days of just traveling and actually use that towards board preparation. Or I know I was on nights for a few of them, so it was nice to not have to find a buddy or find somebody to cover me. So that was amazing. And I'm sorry, I don't remember what your question was.
No, you're good. You're good.
That was.
How did you convey that you were interested in a program?
Oh, I kind of I don't know. I think I'm just like location. Location was a big one for me. Like family there. Everybody knows I'm gonna be next to my family. So to me, if that was a big one.
Yeah, I think it is more difficult to have that sort of a discussion with a program you're applying to, and sometimes there are some blunt questions like you're applying not to anyone on the screen, but sometimes they would say you've applied for breast imaging, you applied for breast body, so what are you actually applying for? That's fair to ask. But I think maybe when I was a med student, I don't know if it didn't actually make any difference. And when I was a med student, I thought, oh well, I'm going to tell the program I'm putting number one. I'm going to let them know. I didn't feel that one way or another. I just didn't want to do it this year. I don't know if it's just because it's however many years later. Was it 4 years later? Or just that it's maybe just not actually having met people. I know we're meeting each other here, but it's not the same. I would have maybe felt a little awkward approaching someone like that this year, as opposed to having someone I know.
I think going back to Linda's question from before, as far as the applicants, I also feel that, the residents who have like childcare issues, for them to have like a Zoom interview session, or like I should say virtual interview session, is definitely a big plus as well.
So that's a nice segue to the $1 million question is, are we going to continue to do virtual interviews next year, do in person, or do a hybrid? Like, what are we thinking?
I'm thinking probably hybrid would be a good option, because if there are people who want to come for the interview, I would feel that would be great to see the city, see the culture of your program, or see it on a first-hand basis. But there might be interviewers or candidates that cannot come because of a lot of reasons, and I feel like as long as we understand that and don't put them down because they didn't come to a program, we should be okay, is what I'm thinking for next year.
It shouldn't sway the rank list whether they're physically there or not.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think for our program, it would probably be exactly what you said, to provide them options of both and see which one they were more interested in.
I would think as an applicant that would be difficult. I don't know what the right answer is, but I'm thinking if I were applying somewhere, in some ways it's hard not to view people differently, as much as I would try not to. I think meeting them in person is such a different experience, but then I wouldn't, in terms of equity, I wouldn't want to put someone in that position to have to choose. So we've really been debating it a lot amongst our faculty.
Yeah, I would think from an applicant point of view, hybrid is definitely tricky, because yes, program directors can say they're not going to judge you differently if you don't go, but they're just going to automatically assume that you're not their top. And, or at least that's how I would do it. If I had to pick, out of 10 programs, I'm going to go visit my top 5. It's just the reality of things. So I would be worried about being ranked down. So it would put me in a position where I would feel obligated to go just so that I'm on an equal playing field as everybody else. I would rather it just be either come or don't come, like either virtual or not virtual, because then I know I'm not put in this position where I'm like, oh my gosh, I should go and make, show face.
Craig, do you feel the same way? I'm just curious.
I do, and I mean, I think, I think not going to the interview. I mean, how can the programs? Yeah, like Hala was saying, it's like you're trying to gauge interest, and if the applicant's not giving you the opportunity to meet them, then that's difficult. And so then, like Hala was saying, I think there would be a lot of pressure on applicants if it's an option to go for the in-person, which is fine. I mean, we have 3 school age kids, and you could do back to school, or you can do hybrid, and in person is better. So I don't know. I know. I think it worked. I think it was necessary, this application cycle, and I think it worked well. Technically it worked great. It's just not the same as meeting people and seeing the place and getting, for you as well to hire someone you've not met. It's difficult, and I think, and maybe the decision is this, the positives outweigh the negatives. I agree. It's expensive for everyone involved. It takes more time and money to do in person, and maybe it's a matter of, okay, well, maybe one more cycle and see what we think. But I don't know, that's up to you.
Yeah.
I feel, I mean, certainly if I were, the next interview is for a job, right? I would have to meet the people, right? I mean, to sign up with a practice and not having met the people, that would be too scary. And for fellowship programs and residency programs is also, I think it's important to meet the people. As nice as this is, and as grateful as I am that it was available in this terrible COVID time.
Well, it's a lot to think about. It's.
Can I just make one comment about this year's match cycle? I think it's important to look at the data. And when you look at the percentage of programs that matched this year, it was 63.6% that filled compared to 57.1% last year. So despite all of the challenges, there's actually a higher percentage of programs that filled. And also looking at the positions that were filled, it was 78% of positions were filled compared to 75% last year. So I think that we all did a pretty good job given the circumstances that we faced.
Yeah. Good. Well, I think any other questions or comments? Hala?
There's a question in the chat. Someone asked about the average number of interviews per applicant. I don't know that information, but I don't know if you all are comfortable saying how many interviews you went on this year.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to say that the program directors and the programs honestly did so amazing. I had such an amazing time on all of my interviews. I had no negatives. Maybe I'm alone here, but I had no negatives to say. I thought it was the best it could possibly be in such a horrible situation. And every program really tried their best to make it a good experience for us. So I didn't feel like I missed out. Like Craig was saying, it obviously in person would have been so much different. In terms of the number of interviews, I went to 13, which was more than I actually went for residencies. But it was difficult because I did apply so broadly. So when I would get an invite, it was weird to not go because obviously I was interested in the program and it was virtual. So why would I not go? So I went to all of them. And I do know multiple friends that also did the same thing, because we all applied to so many programs, and then you get these invites, and you can't not go if you're free. Because you're interested in the program and you want to see what they have to offer. And actually, I would say a lot of what I felt changed once I went and saw the and went to the interview. So I was glad I went to all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
I ended up having 7 or 8 interviews, and that was more programs than as I spoke to attendings and fellows and senior residents, and there was more than they recommended that I applied to. But in retrospect, I think having yesterday, like adding up the number of actual spots I applied to, I should probably have applied to a few more, and that makes it difficult for you, because then if everyone's sort of oversubscribing, it just makes it more difficult to get through all the applications, maybe. But I feel if it were now, last whatever August, September, I think I would have suggested to myself maybe even a few more than I ended up going to.
Okay.
But thank you to everyone, and it was really a great experience. And like Carla was saying, it was so clear to us that the programs were trying really hard to have it run smoothly and to give us a good feel for their program. And we could feel that, and we are very grateful to all of you for that.
Good. Well, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, I think we're good. So next week, right, we have another seminar, so stay tuned for next week. So I guess that's it. So thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Congratulations to all the applicants.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Okay, good luck. Bye. Bye.